Here we are. Today we're going to, well, in this video we're going to assemble these, and one of these tools is quite handy for just stripping off any bits of brim that you've got on here. So we're going to look at assembling the bearings on these, which is very simple, and putting the magnets in. And trying to get the magnets the right way round so all the levers work the right way, at least in Windows. Although, however much of that, let's focus, you do in Windows, there's absolutely no guarantee that that will come out right in the game, because even on proper game controllers I seem to have to reverse them quite often. So let's see, I've deburred all the insides of these holes. A few little lumps on here that need to be knocked off, but there we go. So once you've done that, you see I've put one bearing in here. You can take your oh, that's not the right bearing. One moment. There we go. So you need, got one in there already, so you need 2, 4, 6, 8 of these. Just pop them out of the way, and you simply should be able to just pop them in. They're a bit stiff, might have to just push hard. This is my makeshift video disc. It's not quite that stable, but if I push it against, there we go, just against the table there. Obviously don't push that against your dining table, otherwise you may end up in a lot of trouble, but they should just fit nicely in like that. So so we're going to pop these all in. There we are. And then we're going to look at getting the magnets in. If you want all the levers to come the right way, will depend on getting them all in the right way. It's just, oh, I haven't deburred that one, hang on. You can see these are very good for deburring holes, just like that, and you're done. So any elephant's foot or anything can be removed very quickly and efficiently. They're only a few pounds, these tools, and they're absolutely worth it for the time they save of doing this sort of thing. Of course, your printer, you may not feel you want a brim on it, or depending on the material you're printing. Let's just clean that up a bit. There we go. So you'll see these are all labelled. These are swarf away. We've got our magnets here, and I've got my I couldn't find a compass. I know there's one somewhere, so we know that's north. So we'll start at the back with the boost lever. Now the boost lever will sit in like this, with the sensor sitting about here. So when it's fully back, you want this side to be south. So we'll take 4 5mm magnets, and we want north to attract to that. So that must be the south side. South should repel. So these simply go in here. This can be a bit fiddly to get in. There we go. And you push them down and they just clip in. There's a little clip, I don't know if we can get that to focus, there's a little clip in there that holds it. Now south should be at the bottom, which should be the lowest voltage, I believe, on the Hall effect. Or they'll all work backwards. Now you might just not want to bother with this, because and plonk them all in, because They usually have to be reversed and things in games anyway. In flight sims it seems, no matter which way you do it, or if you get them all right or wrong. But just for being right, so this one is the throttle. It can be identified. You've got the hole here for the wire to come through, and this one sits in this way round, so the magnets are here. So in this case, when it's fully back, the sensor will sit about there, so we want the south to be on the top of this one. So we'll get our little toy magnet here, so that must be north, that must be south, so the south needs to go at the top of this one because it's on the other side. So we'll pop them in. Oh, that's south. There we go. Once you've got them started, not too bad. Just have to flick that one in. There we go. And again, just clips in like that. And that clip will hold them in place. So there's those two done. So we'll carry on. So while this one faced that way, the next one is the opposite way, which there's two of these the same. So you're going to have to decide which one's which at this point and mark it up. I might put a bit of tape on the one. So this will be the prop. This will be this way, so it wants to be the same as this one. So south, which will be opposite to that north, will be at the bottom. And I might have to mark this with something so I know that that's the way it is, because otherwise, well, I can always check it before assembly with a magnet anyway, but you know, if you want to be sensible now, you'd stick a little bit of tape or something on it, so you know that one's for the prop. There we go, they've clipped in, and your last one will be the mixture. And the mixture, just like this one, so this one faces that way, that one faces that way, this one faces this way, and this one will face this way. So, just like the throttle, the south wants to be at the top, so that's the south, direct it to the north, and it'll go in the top there. So yes. Obviously, if you've got a compass, you can always check which way you've put these in if you're fussed about that. As I say, you can just plonk them all in anyway. Your levers probably will not all move in the same direction in Windows, but really it probably won't make much difference the time you get in game, because they never ever work the right way anyway. This one might need a little trimming up on the part here. Might be a little bit of plastic in the way. Alright, there it goes. There we go. Always push them in. There we go. And they're all in. So that's the assembly of these pieces, all done. Now all magnetic everywhere. And so we'll carry on with the next part. Right, now we want to start soldering and assembling the sensors for the main levers. These simply clip into these spacers, which we'll now get out of the way. So, first thing you need is your wire. So for this I'm going to use red, blue and yellow. So red and blue for positive and negative. We want about 15 centimeters ish. We're going to trim these up again later. So this is blue. Some yellow. Then we've got our, don't know if that'll focus on that, probably, oh dear, move that out of the way. So, got our little holder here, got sensor sit in. First thing we want to do is bend these legs out like that, And then you want to trim these so they'll all just sit inside. So trim that one, trim that one. So when we've soldered them, they'll sit inside. Now, got 3 wires. Now we've done that, we're not going to glue that in yet. Next, we'll bring in our, position this. Now this is where these come in handy, because you can just hold your bits with this. While you do it. It's not particularly clear there. I wonder if we can just put something behind it just so you can see the... There you go, you can see it a little better. Hopefully we won't set fire to it. Now, these go in with the largest flat side up on these. You can see there's a little... I don't know if we can focus that close. There you go. You can see, but there's actually a little taper in the back there for the tapers to fit in on this. So, if I check my wiring, it should be positive on that one, negative on that one, and then your signal is the last one. Double check that, because I'm pretty sure that's right. Excuse me. Oh dear. There we go. Yes. Because I've got these the other way up to where you'd normally see the wiring. So what we're going to do, turn that out a bit. You can just strip these tiny wires back with your nails like that. We want to wrap, now this is where it gets fiddly. We want to wrap this around that leg. In fact, we don't want as much as that really. We want to just wrap it around. We can always hold it with the other clip. So I recommend, highly recommend one of these little soldering stations. They're very handy. Now when you're soldering, one of the biggest things people don't get right is they don't have an ice hot solder on. You have to excuse mine is in not very good condition, but you see how easily that solder melts on there. You can tell when you've got it properly hot, the solder won't just melt, it'll just instantly melt. And that is when you've got it hot enough to do. Now I'm going to try and do this the wrong way up from underneath, so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. That's made a nice solder joint on there. So now we've done that one, we'll just move that wire up out the way. So then we want the blue for the middle, because that's going to be our ground. Some might like to use green for ground. It is entirely your preference. Because it's negative, I thought we'd have blue, like a cold tap. Again, the wrapping it around is just to try and hold it in place a little bit while we solder it, really. You can just wrap those bits around. Sometimes a teeny screwdriver helps. Again, we take our nice hot soldering iron. There we go. Easy as that. Sometimes you get a teeny spike, but you can just use your little side trimmers to trim that off. Out the way. And we'll do the last one, the yellow. A bit long, that one. Go back in camera. There we go. It is tiny and it is fiddly, but unfortunately, whatever you're going to do with electronics is tiny and fiddly, and modern electronics are a lot more tiny and fiddly than these. So this is one of the things you have to be prepared for. But you shouldn't be scared of soldering. Soldering's quite easy. It's just a matter of you actually have to have the soldering iron hot. That's the biggest mistake people make, is not getting their soldering iron hot enough. That's quite nice, so we'll just do that one. There we go. It basically instantly solders something this size when your soldering iron is hot. So your little third hand there is very useful. Now what you can do now is you can just poke each wire through its little hole. We don't have to worry about putting shrink sleeving on this, because if it gets focus on it, can we focus on it? There we go. You'll see there's a little separator to hold each wire apart, so the bare legs that you've soldered won't interfere with each other. We put them in, pull them all through as we go. Oh, you see, look, I've got a little spike on there. I'll just trim that off. There we go. Now we can bend those legs down. So we do this into their little parts. Then you want a little screwdriver or something. Here we go. So make sure that comes down enough. The next part is to glue the sensor in. Now your sensor hopefully will fit in quite snugly. Yes, that will fit quite nicely. There we go. So we'll put a little drop of super glue in underneath once you've got this ready there. Just a little drop of super glue. You could use a different glue if you prefer different glues, then just hold it down, make sure it's nice and flat. It'll take a little time to set. We'll just wipe off the excess. Push that down. You leave that to set, and there you are. That's one of your sensors done. There's 4 of these to do. You just repeat this process. If you wish, you could fill in here with a little epoxy or something if you really wanted, if you want to make sure that they're gonna not move, but they're not really going to go anywhere. They'd be perfectly fine like that. But it depends how fussy you are. So we can then move on to the next part. So we're going to assemble the clip assembly that allows this to be locked or unlocked. On this, there's one of these is for the prop and the other is for the boost lever. They're different shapes, but the assembly is exactly the same for both. So first what we want to do is to hammer on one of our little nuts. Now this can be a bit tricky. I'll go do this on the more solid bench, but basically you just need to tap this onto here until it's flush. Like so. If yours are a bit loose, then you'll have to glue them. You might also this will then go in through here. So then we can simply take this. Now if you look closely, if I get this in shot so it focuses, there are 2 dimples. Come on camera, there we go. two dimples which the ball can click into. So what you want is to pick that dimple, so that's going to want to be slid all the way over there, and then we're going to want to glue the ball in place. Now I'm going to use super glue. Epoxy may be a little bit better for this. I'll give that a spin round, push that into place. So we need to leave that to set. And then all we simply need to do once the super glue has set is to tap this into the other nut. Oh, you see, this will take quite some time to set on this, so we'll leave that to set, and then we'll come and finish it off. So simply to finish it, we need to put that in there and then just hammer that one in. I should go do that on a more solid bench. It's moved in a bit too far, I think. Yes, it has. I have to correct that. I've knocked it in too far. But that's the general idea. These should be flush, so I'll have to knock that back a bit. But there we go. Then your ball can run between the two indents. It's as simple as that. Right, now we're going to do fitting this part. This is the boost lever, but the prop lever will go together exactly the same. We're going to do trimming and fitting the spring. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that your bolt slides freely through these parts. If it doesn't, something like a little needle file like this, or if you've got the correct size drill, is very useful for cleaning that out. So the next part will be, this will fit on like so. This will then slide in here, and you can push this through just to secure it. There we go, and then you immediately see we've got the spring action, and we should have the lock unlock action. May need a little working. There we go. Now, as we'll see, there's a teeny notch in there. We want to trim this off to go in that notch. Now, if you want to mark it to bend, what we can do, take our pliers, grab it there, and just bend it as we go. There we go. Give it a little bit more. There we are. Then we can just mark it. I'm going to use a little file just to put a little nick in it, but you could use a permanent marker. So you see the tiny nick. Now this is where I say you'll need a good pair of cutters. The other one I want to mark about here-ish to cut. It doesn't want to be too far up because otherwise it'll interfere with the knob. So about there. Now if you don't have cutters but you have a little grinder, you could always grind through these springs. They are hardened, so if you use a rubbish pair of cutters you will just put a nick in your cutters. Now if you are going to do what I'm about to do, make sure you hold the other end. It will go flying off into orbit. This one wants to be cut about there. Now we can reassemble it. So this will go this way, so you really want the head to be facing you, so this will be this way round towards me in this setup. Now this is where it can get a bit fiddly, as everything with springs can get fiddly. What to do is push the bolt in just so it's poking in. Try and get the spring in. There we go. Get your bolt through. There we go. Now you may want to trim it off a little shorter. If yours sticks out a bit, this one sticks out a tiny bit, so I have to trim that again a little shorter. Then you can take your nylock nut, put that on here. Come on, focus. And then we can wind this on like so. We don't want to do it up tight and squish it. The nylock nut's there to stop it coming undone. You want it to have a little bit of slack so it's nice and free. And that will soon work itself to have a nice feel to it. So you lock, unlock, unlock, lock. And the springs will neatly tied away. I'll trim that up a bit. You can always just grind that back a bit, and there you go. You do exactly the same for the prop, except it has the straight one of these rather than the bent one. And you have your interlinked levers.